Katie and Sloan are two best friends, each with their own vibe. Katie is the more reserved one, while Sloan is all about adventure. They are buzzing with excitement for their upcoming trip, where they'll be working for a month at Eco-Field Organic Farms to save up for a shopping spree in New York City. The next morning, Katie's uncle Jason, who happens to be a cop, picks them up. They spend the night at his place with his girlfriend before heading off to the farm. As they settle in, Sloan comes up with a fun idea. Why not use fake names while they are there? She picks Heather, and Katie goes with Ripley. The following day, Jason drops them off at a bus station for their ride to the farm. Being the protective uncle he is, he reminds them to have a safety code in place. They agree that Katie will send him a different safe word each day in alphabetical order, starting with Apple. With an hour to kill before the bus arrives, the girls decide to grab a bite at a cafe. While they are there, they catch the eye of two local guys and end up sharing a table with them. They introduce themselves using their fake names and find out the guys are brothers named Jed and Lucas. The brothers offer to give them a ride to the farm. Katie is a bit hesitant at first, but with a little nudge from Sloan, she finally agrees. They hop into the blue truck, completely unaware of the trouble that lies ahead. Things start to feel off when Jed intentionally drives past the farm. Eventually, they pull up to the brothers' house, where their mother greets them warmly and offers tea. Inside, Katie sends a text to her uncle with a safe word, making it seem like everything is just fine. Meanwhile, the girls sip their tea and enjoy some pie, not realizing it's laced with something. As they start to feel woozy, it dawns on them that they've been drugged, but it's too late to make a run for it. Jed and Lucas quickly overpower them, knocking them out before dragging them inside. The next morning, Katie and Sloan wake up in chains, surrounded by the eerie silence of the woods, their hearts racing with fear. Jed, their captor, coldly informs them that this will be their new home, but he'll provide them with the bare essentials: clothes, a bed, and even a toilet. Later, Boris, the mastermind behind this nightmare, shows up to check Katie's phone, looking for any signs that someone might know where they are. He quickly realizes they've been using fake names and that Katie has been sending out coded messages. Under the pressure, both girls reluctantly admit that Apple is their safety word. That night, as they prepare for a shower using makeshift baths, the town sheriff barges in, gun drawn. Instead of offering help, he reveals himself as part of the trafficking ring and assaults one of them. After he leaves, Sloan does her best to comfort a visibly shaken Katie. Meanwhile, Jason starts to get suspicious when he receives a text containing the same safety word from the day before. Worried, he reaches out to the farm, only to find out that Katie and Sloan never made it there. Back in the woods, another buyer shows up, an unkempt man known as Scruffy Guy, who picks Sloan and takes her into a trailer. Not long after, another buyer, this one wearing a pig mask, arrives and chooses Sloan again, leaving her even more traumatized. Elsewhere, Jason arrives at the sheriff's office and, unaware of the sheriff's corruption, shares his concerns. He mentions that Katie used the same safety word again, inadvertently alerting the criminals to his suspicions. Boris, now realizing that Katie's uncle is an FBI agent, orders Jed to kill the girls and dispose of their bodies. Katie overhears their chilling conversation and quickly warns Sloan. The next morning, their captors arrive with Scruffy Guy to carry out their deadly plan, leaving him behind to keep an eye on the girls. Seizing the moment, Katie seduces him before suddenly biting his throat, killing him in a desperate act of survival. They manage to break free from their chains and make a run for it. Not long after, the sheriff shows up, probably with plans to take them out. But before he can make a move, Katie and Sloan swipe his car and speed off into town. They pull over at a hardware store, gearing up for some payback. They set their plan in motion. Back at Boris' place, he walks in only to be ambushed by Katie and Sloan, who launch an attack with tennis balls rigged with nails. Seriously hurt, Boris pleads for his life, even offering cash for mercy. Just then, Jason pulls up outside. Inside, Katie and Sloan are grilling Boris, demanding to know who the guy in the pig mask is. When Jason steps into the house, Katie and Sloan have already made their exit, leaving Boris in critical condition. Later, the sheriff breaks the news to Jason that Boris didn't make it. Realizing he's running out of time, Jason tries to call Katie, But before he can do anything, the sheriff pulls out his gun, revealing his true colors. Meanwhile, Katie and Sloane track down the pig mask, who turns out to be a local priest. Sloane confronts him in the church, and the two best friends finally get their revenge. After taking him down, they chain his body to the back of their truck and drive off. They make a pit stop in the middle of nowhere, douse him in gasoline, and set him ablaze before driving away. While Jason is still trapped by the sheriff, the crooked officer has also kidnapped two new girls. But Katie and Sloane arrive just in time. They tie up the sheriff and force him into a game of Russian roulette, making him squirm before Katie delivers the final shot. After they manage to free the two new captives, the women tell them to let Jason go. When Jason inquires about who killed the sheriff, they stay tight-lipped, clearly grateful to Katie and Sloane for rescuing them. But their quest for revenge isn't over yet. They track down Jed and Lucas' mother, drugging her just like she did to them. When she comes to, she finds herself tied up in the basement, forced to witness the brutal beating of Jed, who they take down with baseball bats. Next, they bring her to Lucas, who's bound to a chair. Instead of ending his life right away, they hand him a bat and order him to kill his own mother. When he refuses, they shoot him and make it look like a suicide, planning to pin all the murders on him. In a last-ditch effort to save herself, the mother offers them money. But instead of taking the bribe, Katie coldly finishes her off with a lawnmower. A little while later, Jason picks up Katie and Sloane, dropping them off at the airport. The girls board a flight to New York City, excited to start fresh and embrace their new lives.